Hey there, everybody. Jimmy with Do the Top Crane here, as if you guys didn't know who it was going to be. Dude, let's see, who do we have on here already? We've got Brandon, I know that, and James Bergeron and David Rigoni, because I've been chatting with them a little bit in chat. Dave says, while we're waiting, where was Tadano made and how did they get it to you? The Tadano all-terrains, or ATFs, are built in Germany, and they ship them over on a boat. John Warren, how are you doing? Brandon says, I'm going to post a link to this video, this live on Chris Conkel's Discord. That would be awesome. Thanks for that, Brandon. Paul Weaver, how are you doing? It's still morning here. It's 11 a.m. Central Time. I'm not sure where you're at, Paul, but good afternoon over there. So let's see. I didn't really have James Bergeron. I actually woke up just a few minutes ago, so just in time to get on the chat. Perfect. I don't really have an outline or set topics for today's live stream. I was going to do it at my normal 6 o'clock time, but rumor has it there's a football game or something this evening, so that kind of interrupted or circumvented that. So I guess we'll do it earlier in the day, and then 2 weeks from today, we'll try to get back on our normal every 2 week schedule of doing them from 6 to 8 Central Time. SS Mario, how are you doing? Says, what's up from California? Johnny Dishman, hello from Peak Ridge, Arkansas, or Pea Ridge, Arkansas. How are you doing, Johnny? Paul Weaver says he's across the pond in the UK, 8 hours ahead. Oh, that's that's a little bit of distance there. Anyway, I haven't put anything up this past week, and I apologize to everybody for that. I've been kind of burning my candle at both ends. Brandon asked, how's the hammer coming? And that's really what has interrupted my video editing, is my extracurricular activity of working on the hammer and work. We have been incredibly busy at work this past week, even given the temperatures that we've gotten. I mean, everybody knows about the polar vortex in North America, and even with the temperatures down the way they were, we were still incredibly busy at work. So Brandon asked how the hammer's coming. It's coming, but it's slow and steady is going to win this race. I completely underestimated the scope of that project and just how much welding and fabricating it was going to take to make it happen. That's not to say that I'm not going to get it done, because I am going to get it done, but it's going to take some time. And the other night, a friend of mine came over, and she brought her son with her, and he got to do a little welding with me and learning how to weld and watching what I was doing. I actually recorded a little bit of footage while we were building the hammer, so we'll get some of that out. Yeah, I've got some pictures. I'll see if I can bring them up. Paul Weaver said, a friend of mine recently lost 3 fingers on one hand rigging a crane. That is no good. I'm guessing got them rolled up through the shivs or something when they were reeving a block, maybe. So let me see if I can get some of these pictures pulled up. And if any of you follow me on Instagram, I posted a pretty good picture on Instagram. I know James Bergeron saw it. So yeah, there's some pretty decent pictures on old Instagram, but this one's probably my favorite one so far. Let's see if we can get the glare off. John Warren asked how many pounds have I went through already. I don't even know that I've made it through a full pound of welding rod yet. And here's why. I had to wait until Tuesday to really get anything done on the hammer. And that's because Thor's channel, or Thor's Hammer, the channel that my brother and I started, has acquired a plasma cutter now. So I was waiting until Tuesday for that to show up before I could really get going doing some fabricating. So let's see. Paul Weaver says he does tower cranes. Jason Heltzley, how are you doing? David Rigoni he wants the link to the Thor's Hammer channel, so we will throw a link to that in there. Here you go, David. Brandon says, what do you think about Gold Rush Whitewater? Seems like a total joke to me. No real money to be made there. I don't know. I've watched a few episodes of it. There could be a little honey hole down there in those rivers. It's hard to say. Thomas Nelson said the cold snap sucked. -30 up here. When I did warm up enough to work, I had fuel gel problems. Lost 3 days to bad fuel. That's no good. And then Louisiana Outdoors, how are you doing? James Berger, I'll get back to your comment too. But Thursday, we took the 180G up to Maryville, Missouri, which is about, by car, it's about 35-minute drive, maybe a 30-minute drive from where our office is. By crane, it's a little over an hour. Oh, Tyson Dykes. I'll get back to you on that one too, Tyson. But by crane, it's a little over an hour, and it was so cold. It seemed like everything that we did, we were taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I didn't even have time to record it. I wish I would have. Before we even got out of our lot, we blew an air line on the truck. It was the supply line that runs from the truck to the trailer. Plastic ones, they're known to be brittle in the cold, and it broke before we even got out of our facility. So we got that fixed, got halfway to our job. I had a brake freeze up on the dolly, so I had to pull in with what looked like a bonfire in my left front hub on the boom dolly. There was actually no flames, but there was a lot of smoke. So I got that worked out, made it to our job site, and I tried to pin the dolly. Like the dolly articulates, and there is physically a pin that you can pin to back up in a straight line. Tried to pin the dolly, and the pin was frozen, so I ended up having to back it up again articulated, which you guys saw in one of my other videos as a pain in the butt. It just seemed like whatever could go wrong did go wrong. But we did get up there. We got the job done. Everything was safe and got back home. So anyway, now get caught up here. James Bergeron said the chainsaw he's working on, post pictures, decided to get rid of it and then replace it with a new saw. Yeah, I mean, if you can swing it, James, if you can make it happen, if you could pick up like a Husky or a Stihl, my go-to on chainsaws, take it for what it's worth because I'm a crane operator, but I've got an old Stihl 021 that's almost 20 years old, and it never fails to start. And I've cut a lot of wood with it. At our old house, we used to kind of half heat with wood. Let's see. And then I've also got, what is it, MS 219 or something? I don't know. I don't even remember what it is. Jason Heltzley doing good. Thanks for asking why the live stream so early today. Jason, rumor has it there's a football game later, so I figured I better do it now. Tyson Dykes update. Bye-bye Tadano. Hello, LTM 1220. So why is the Tadano going away, Tyson? And now it looks like you're going to be in a 220-ton Liebherr. Brandon says, I don't understand the battery chainsaws. Milwaukee wants $390. Oh, battery chainsaws. $399 for a 16-inch. No way that battery will last more than 1 to 2 trees. I don't get it either, Brandon, but it seems to be the craze now is electric chainsaws. I can see them having a lot of torque because electric motors generate a lot of torque. But like you said, the amperage draw while you're running a chainsaw would be pretty high. So I can't imagine battery lasting very long. Thomas Nelson, you should do a video just backing the dolly. I put a pretty good amount of footage of me backing the dolly in, I think it was a video I did last Thursday. Backing that dolly sucks. It's articulate. It's like backing a four-wheel wagon. Paul Weaver says the same about my mate. He had 2.5 weeks off work and is back climbing up the tower of his crane. He must be mad. After missing 3 fingers, he was only off for 2.5 weeks, and now he's back to operating. He's a pretty tough individual. Jason Helsley, yes, it was in the 2-inch pick video. Actually, it was in the video. Well, actually, it was in both, but the longest portion of it was in the video where we were setting the crane up to pick with 2 inches. Tyson Dyke says, change of company, 265-ton old company is just about to close the doors. In my opinion, the 265 will be my daily driver. Be filling on a 400-ton Grove and a 500-ton Grove doing wind work. Oh, those are big rigs. That takes some serious work to put those together. Telling you, Tyson, you need to start a YouTube channel, especially doing work with a 400- and 500-ton, because those have some stuff that the whole 180G doesn't have. So you ought to start you a YouTube channel. John Warren says him back in the dolly was funny. I was even laughing at myself when I was editing that video. It's frustrating when you're trying to back in and make something happen. But when I could edit the video and look back on it, I was like, that was actually pretty comical. So that's why I kind of put the funny music with it. But trying to think of what I've got in queue as far as footage goes. I'll have to go back and look. I haven't recorded a whole lot this week either, just because with the temperatures being what they are, it's almost a lost cause because the GoPro batteries just do not last when it's cold. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to get the 180 out, the old Tadano 180G, and it's going to get a bath, and then we're going to pull it in the crane building. That's what we call our facility that we just keep our 2 big cranes and their support trucks in. But we're going to start doing some touch-up paint on it. And I'm sure you guys noticed in some of my videos, I'm starting to get some surface rust on it in places. We're going to take care of that and get it gone. Tyson Dyke says, I do the Instagram. That's my experiment. If all goes well, I'll think about it. My face is best met for radio, though, my friend. And this isn't. I don't think people are watching my footage because of my stunning good looks. I would imagine it's more because they're interested in cranes. Dark Angel 2102 just started watching your videos. Really find these very interesting. Well, thank you. Says keep it up. His uncle is an operator. And I've said it before, as far as I know, I'm one of the few channels. There may be a few others here and there that upload pretty regularly on YouTube. John Warren says, I won't pick on you too bad, Jimmy, because I remember learning how to back the wagons. It was quite so pretty. The thing with that one, I can back a 4-wheel wagon. If you put a 4-wheel wagon on the back of my truck, I can back it like a trailer. But on the back of that crane, that dolly is narrower than the carrier, so you can't see it until it gets offset one side or the other. And also the crane is, I don't know, 60-some feet long, 60 feet long. And the dolly is only about 20. So it really kind of throws everything in askew. It throws everything off. It's pretty rough. And I will agree with Brandon, Tyson, that you do have a good Instagram channel or Instagram page. Brandon S. is backing up the wagon like backing up 2 trailers. It is. It basically is. It's got, with 2 pivot points, it's basically like backing up 2 trailers. And like I said, I can pin it to where it doesn't articulate, but I can't do it with the boom laying on it. And the reason being is the boom rotates on the slewing ring on the carrier, which is about 12 feet from the back of the crane. And then the hitch on the dolly is on the back of the crane. And then the dolly also pivots about maybe 8 or 10 feet from the hitch. So with all of those pivot points being in different locations, if I tried to lock that dolly in line, then it would put everything in a bind. David asked if I could set up a camera to see where the dolly is while backing. There is a backup camera. Well, I'll use this term loosely. On the back of the Tadano, there is a backup camera right next to the hitch, but it doesn't really allow you to see where the dolly is. It's just used for hooking up to the dolly when you're by yourself. So it just basically points at the hitch. I could maybe try to set up one of my GoPros and then view it with my phone, but it takes several minutes to get a GoPro to connect to your phone. And then a lot of times it doesn't work from that far away. So it's just better off you fight it until you get it in there. And Thomas Nelson says, trailer with a short wheelbase. That's a fact. And I've seen other guys try to back it up. And, man, if you think I'm bad at it, John Warrens, which you should do a video to show people that don't understand how it works. Oh, it's why I should. Yeah, I could. I actually did a video on the dolly. It's been quite a while back. I think I talked about that pin, but maybe I need to put a camera on the dolly when I'm going down the road and everybody can see that thing articulating and doing its thing. So I may do that. Put a camera actually physically on the dolly. John Lane says, hi again, Jimmy. Glad to catch your live stream. Brandon says, I would not be able to back that up. You could back it up, Brandon. It just takes practice. G4 Outdoors, how are you doing, Randy? Says, what are we doing? We are wasting a couple hours of a Sunday, is what it looks like so far. I haven't said anything really productive. I did show a picture of the hammer, or welding on the hammer, but that's about it. And I guess back on the hammer topic, I said that I would like to be dropping that thing about the second week of February. I don't think that's going to happen. As long as it's taken to get it done, I'm going to probably say it's going to be around March. But I don't know. We'll see. If I could get just like 4 solid days of work in, like 10-hour days on it, I could get pretty far into it. And John Moore, Brandon, never say never. That's giving up too soon. That's a fact. Tyson Dykes, I thought you did really well. Most people cannot wrap their head around how it moves when backing. My new rigs have articulated dollies. Pray for me. I'm going to need it. Oh, Tyson, the trick that I use when I'm backing that dolly up is I watch the front half of the dolly, and I guess I kind of imagine that as the back end of a pickup, and then the rear half of the articulated dolly being the trailer. So I try to keep the front half of the dolly pointed in the direction that I want the rear half of the dolly to go. So hopefully that makes sense and you can apply it. It still gets kind of confusing. And as far as like pulling into a sight and backing straight out or backing out around a gentle curve, I can do that all day long, all day, every day. But where I ran into trouble on that other deal is backing around a 90-degree corner from a 2-lane road into a 2-lane road. So that was that's what was getting me. Thomas Nelson says to catch me on the next one. He's got to go. Thanks for stopping in, Thomas. Frank Hartmeyer, I'm new to your group. I like your videos. Been in the crane rentals for many years. I'm now teaching operators and hoping to use some of your videos for training, so keep the videos coming. Hey, thanks for that, Frank. The only thing I would ask is if you're going to show my videos to a large audience or to an audience, if you could try to grab me some subscribers, it'd be great. G4 Outdoor says, I was laughing you backing that up. I usually get confused with a single axle. Well, in where we had to go Thursday was the exact same place, and I had to back it into the exact same spot. But however, with it being cold and all the stuff that we'd encountered earlier in the day, I was already frustrated, and I'm glad I wasn't recording that, because I bet I pulled up out of there 4 times before I got it situated where I wanted it. And I pulled clear back out on the road 4 times. So yeah, it wasn't pretty. Then I had a UPS truck sitting in the middle of the road. The guy was sitting in his truck with his arms crossed, just waiting for me to get out of the way. I was like, if it takes me all day long to get back in here, it looks like you're going to just be stuck sitting there all day long. I was not going to give up my fight just so the UPS truck could get out. So anybody in Maryville, Missouri, if your packages were late last Thursday, my apologies. Frank Hartmeyer, I'll pass it on. Thanks. Yeah, and that's, Frank, a lot of what this channel is about. One is I try to make it the subscribers channel. I try to record stuff that people are asking to see, and not necessarily just stuff that I want to record. So I try to answer a lot of questions and whatnot. If any of your students have questions, or if you want me to touch on something in particular, I'll try to make a video of it for you. Just let me know. You can email me at tothetopcrane@gmail.com, or you can post a question in comments, and I'll try to make a video. Party, I don't know if I can pronounce that. Party Mer or something. Hi, Jimmy from Minnesota. Could you raise the boom up with a dolly connected just enough to raise tires off the ground like we do with fixed dollies? I cannot with that one. That one, the way that articulated dolly works is the boom just sits on a pin that's about this big around, and if that pin fits up into a socket on the boom, and then it comes down, it gets narrow, and then it spreads out into like a mushroom shaped tip on it, and it's just got 2 little folding locks that go over that end, and I can't pick up the dolly with that. Oh, G4 Outdoors, thanks for clarifying that. Part-timer in Minnesota. I was reading too deep into that, wasn't I? Mighty Mo Excavating, hello from Canada. Hello from Missouri and USA. We got, what, 24 on here? That's not bad for a Sunday with 30 minutes notice, and I guess it's Super Bowl Sunday. There's probably a lot of people getting ready for that. Hence the reason why I'm doing this early in the day and not at 6 o'clock, because, I do have some pretty decent live streams from time to time. I don't think I could really compete with the old Super Bowl. Although I did consider taking out advertising time for my channel during a Super Bowl commercial, but, like, what is it up to now? Almost $2 million for 30 seconds for advertising. I didn't think I quite had it in my budget. But I would probably get a lot of views out of it. James Bergeron says he would rather watch the live stream instead of the Super Bowl. And I'm sure there's a lot that are that way. I'm going to watch it for the commercials, I guess, because the commercials are funny, but I'm not really much of a football fan. Football never really was my thing. I played a little bit in middle school and I think my freshman year of high school, but wrestling was my thing. G4 does. Super Bowl Sunday, I better go back to bed to go in early. I've foreseen influx of the flu. Yeah. Videos by Al. How are you doing? It says you care less about the bowl. Your lives needs commercials. Yeah, I don't get the advertising. It really is like $2 million for 30 seconds. Okay, Jason Heltzley asks, how long are you, or how high are you thinking about dropping the hammer from? We're going to start off small, so we're going to test it from about 10 feet, and then I'm guessing what will happen next. We're probably going to pick it up and drop it from 10 feet, and then next we'll probably just pull it up to 70 feet and let her rip, see what happens. Um, as I stacked all that steel up on the pallet and really started eyeballing what I was building and started welding on it, it really sunk in exactly what we're going to be doing. And it kind of made me step back a little bit and reevaluate how I was attacking it, because the amount of force that's going to be generated by that thing is actually kind of staggering. My biggest fear is we drop that thing from 70 feet first time and the hammer comes apart, which it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I have changed some of my design ideas as far as putting it together to try to circumvent that. So Brandon asked where we're going to drop it at. Mike is in some of my videos, and you guys have seen Mike. Actually, he gets on some of my live stream. He hasn't been like sitting here with me on a live stream because he doesn't like cameras, but he's got about 40 acres, just a few miles from me, and we're going to do it at his place. Tyson Dykes, full boom, full jib with all the inserts, ATF 180G. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know that the hammer would survive that. It's 330. Well, it'd be about 325 feet. And then it would probably bury itself so deep in the ground we'd never recover it. Jason Heltzley asks, is your boss going to let you use one of his cranes? Actually, we are going to rent. We're going to rent our boom truck. So my brother and I are going to rent the boom truck from the company I work for. And that's the one, if you go back in several of my videos, Caleb and I were out on a job in the pouring down rain, running that stand-up boom truck where I was just drenched. That's the crane we're going to rent to do it. And then we'll see how that goes. I mean, we may be able to scale it up from there. There's talk of my brother and I buying our own crane to do it. It's going to depend on how the channel does. If the channel really takes off and is paying its own way and is very successful, then we will entertain buying our own crane. And I was actually talking to a Tadano rep on Instant Messenger earlier, and he said, when you get to that point, hit me up. You know, maybe Tadano will give me a discount on it. We'll see. Recon Marine asks, what kind of training would recommend to get started? 21 work at an open pit mine in Arizona. If you're like get started in what, into cranes? I'm assuming that's what you're asking. The crane world is completely different from mining, excavating, and stuff like that. As far as training, one, if you could get in with a company that does crane rental and start off as an oiler driver, that would probably be one of your first steps, or join your local union apprenticeship program. Their training is very thorough. The way I got started in really anything more than a backhoe was I worked for a crane rental, or not a crane, an equipment rental company, a nationwide equipment rental company. So I was exposed to everything from, you know, dewatering pumps to big dozers and cranes and everything in between. So I gained a lot of knowledge doing that, and then ended up joining our local union and got interested into cranes, and here I am. David Rigoni asks, will it cause boom whiplash when dropped? It will cause a little bit, but it won't be much. if we hang a heavy block, like the block with the hook on it, if the block weighs more than the load being dropped, then the boom shouldn't bounce a whole lot. It'll move some. There'll be a little bit of deflection. I'm guessing it'll move maybe at that boom angle with that boom length on the boom truck. It's probably going to move about 10 inches. Now, if we did what Tyson Dykes said with full boom, full jib, and all the inserts on the 180G, it would probably move about 9 feet. So I don't know that I'll ever do that. Brandon, maybe Tadano could just let you borrow the crane for some extra testing. I would think that I'm probably going to have to be a pretty big fish in a pretty small pond on the whole scope of YouTube to get Tadano to cut loose with a crane. Jason Helsley says, the only reason I asked is because I saw a crane for sale on Facebook Marketplace, East Tennessee. Didn't know if you'd be interested in it. I don't know. Depends on what crane it is, really. I don't want to use a crawler because logistically they're a nightmare. Crawlers are great when you get them on the job and put together, but getting them to the job and getting them put together is quite the task. Tyson Dykes, I can see the views already. I'm really banking on that Thor's Hammer channel being very successful. Jason Helsley, 1997 Link Belt RTC 8022. RTC, that's I'm not sure what an RTC is. I'm going to look that up real quick, though. RTC 8022. That's what I thought. Instead of RT, it's a picker. It is an RT. I wonder what kind of money they wanted for it. Ed, Jason, if you want to email me the pictures and the ad, that'd be fine. I'll look it up. Not say I'm going to buy it right now. David Rigoni asked why the Canadian oversized sign on the Tadano. We actually bought the 180G from a company in Canada, so that's why it's on there. Oh, 65,000. 65,000 might be out of my budget right now. The hammer's not even done yet. The hammer hasn't started paying its own way yet. So to give you guys an idea of what we've got invested in this second channel. Plasma cutter, we bought a cheap one, $500, or actually it was like $530. Lakeside Ranch, how are you doing? Little over $1,600 worth of steel. So we're already at $2,100. Consumables, about $300 worth of consumables, welding rod, wire, grinding wheels. So we're about $2,500 deep into the second channel, and we've only made one video, and that was with all the steel stacked up and a piece of steel sticking out of it, not even welded together yet. So the hammer's going to have to start generating some income before we start spending too much more on it. Tyson Dykes, 65,000. Hold on, let me dig in the couch cushions real quick. All I found was a Cheeto. G4 Outdoor says new videos up on G5 Outdoors. You got a new ride. What'd you get, Randy? Like new ride as in vehicle or new ride as in lawnmower or boat? What'd you end up with? And any of my subscribers are on here that aren't subscribed to G4 Outdoors. He is a longtime personal friend of mine. So if you wouldn't mind, I mean, you can go over and look right now or wait till the stream is over. Randy put a link to your channel in comments so people can find you. But go over and give him a look and at least give him a thumbs up on a few of his videos. But I'd say, I mean, depending on how that hammer does, will dictate the avenue in which we take it as far as how high are we going to drop it, what are we going to be dropping it on, all of that good stuff. So if the channel really takes off and starts generating some real money, then that real money will be put back into the channel to make the channel that much better. So there's that. G4, just a Camry, but it's pretty sexy. Just a Camry. What did you get rid of, though? You didn't get rid of your Taco, did you? Ultimately, though, back on the hammer thing, I would like to be dropping it from right around 150 feet on things that are relatively expensive, just for the sake of doing it, and hopefully the channel's that successful. Brandon says he has to head out. Have a good day, Jimmy, and everyone. Enjoy the game. And thanks for popping in, Brandon. Hope you have a good rest of your day. G4, the Tacoma has another 200,000 to go. You've had that truck for a while, too. And then when I get done with this stream today, back up to the garage, I'm going to go and try to get some more welding done. I've got, for those that didn't watch the video or the live stream that my brother and I did a few weeks ago, I've got the pocket all made in the bottom for the camera that's going to be in the bottom of the hammer when we drop it. Let's see. I've got some of the plates beveled, ready to be welded. That's about as far as I've gotten. At some point, I'm going to get to where it's going to be difficult to handle it, move it around and manipulate it with my engine hoist, but we're going to power through. I may end up putting an electric chain fall on my garage ceiling so I can pick it up and move around. Tyson Dyke, start the hammer challenge. Let's see who has the items that they want to run a durability test on. It was funny. Tyson, you guys can see Tyson Dykes in comments here. He and I have talked on the phone some. He's a crane operator out in the Pacific Northwest and was running the Tadano 160G, which is a almost twin to the 180 that I operate. And when I finally got the stack of steel all piled up, I took a picture of it and sent it to him in a text. And he actually didn't believe we were going to build it. He thought that, because I bounced the idea off of him in the early parts of it, and he thought it would be cool. But then when I showed him the stack of steel, he's like, "Oh dear God, you are going to build it." So he was kind of shocked. But yeah, it'll be once we get it done, we will be taking requests on what you guys want to see smashed. And as long as it's not an animal or a person, I would say it's going to be fair game. I don't know, we may tenderize some steaks or something with it, but as far as at work, I don't know what all we've got coming up. It's been really busy. I can't believe it with the way the weather's been. David Rigoni, hey honey, the garage ceiling collapsed for some reason. I told my wife, I said, oh yeah, Tyson Dyke says if you build the views will come. I said, I'm guessing that Thor's channel or Thor's Hammer channel is going to be so successful that I'll be dropping that hammer through the roof of my house into the entryway just for the views. And she very quickly told me no. But depending on, I mean, if it turns into one of those channels that's making millions of dollars a year, I may very well drop it through the roof of my house. Who knows? Just tell her, hey, honey, it's all for the views. I do have a skylight on the front of my house that I don't really like. I guess I could put it through that, but it's going to go through the skylight and then through the floor. Will end up in the basement. Tyson Dykes, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I'll try to get some more footage up on the Thor's Hammer channel too. I mean, it really is kind of mind-boggling what we're getting ready to do with it. And you don't really get a true sense for that until you start handling the material that you're having to put together to make it. Each one of those half-inch plates is like 50 some pounds, and there's 30 of them. So yeah, it kind of set me back a little bit. G4 Outdoors, can you tip it over? Like tip the hammer over? I don't think I'll be able to tip the hammer over by hand. I'm going to have to use my engine hoist, and the only way I've figured I'm going to be able to do it is I'm going to have to weld picking eyes various places around it so I can pick it up sideways and then rotate it and all of that, and I'm going to have to use my engine hoist to do that. So, and then once I get it all done, I'll just cut the picking eyes off everywhere except for the shackle at the top. I'll just cut all the picking eyes I weld to it. I'll cut them off, polish everything off, and then a buddy of mine that owns Midwest Metal Finishing and Powder Coating is going to powder coat it for me. So we will probably be taking a vote on colors on that too, but I'm really thinking, since it's a hammer, I'll probably have him powder coat it like hammer tone gray. Make it look like a kind of forged look to it. And I'm even going to leather wrap the last like foot of the handle so it looks authentic. It's going to look very, very similar to what is on the movies, but it can't look identical because of copyright infringement stuff. So anyway, like I said, Range Jimmy, if you're going to destroy or damage your house, I'll definitely come down with all my gear and get you some killer aerial video with the drones. I will keep you posted on that, Doug, because I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility. John69, hey, how you doing? I was outside, didn't know you went live. How are you doing, John69? Soldier of Dirt. 81, Jimmy, how are you today? I'm doing well. Tyson Dykes. House, skylight plus hammer plus crane equals thumbs up. That's awesome. Soldier of Dirt's another one that he is working diligently trying to get his YouTube channel grown. He has the requisite number of subscribers, but he is lacking watch hours. So he is working hard to try to get his channel monetized. And it's not really like YouTube makes a whole lot of money as soon as you get monetized. It's more of a mental thing. Once you get past that hurdle and you get monetized, it really kind of sets you in motion. And it's like a major achievement. It's a major award. But if you guys wouldn't mind checking out Soldier of Dirt 81, go subscribe to his channel and watch some of his videos. He is a great dirt hand down in Texas. So let's see. Soldier of Dirt, you should be able to add a link to your channel in comments if you would like to. John69 says, doing good. How are you doing? How's the hammer project coming? We've been talking about the hammer. It's coming slow, but it's going. Nermass, will the handle be welded to the top plate, or will you be cutting holes in each plate and stacking with a weld in each plate to hold the stack together with the outside seam welding? Each plate has a 2 3/8 hole already drilled in the center, and it is Soldier Dirt. Why did that? Let's see. Try that. Now you should be a moderator on here, Soldier Dirt. Now you should be able to post whatever you want to post there. But each plate has a 2 3/8 hole, and then the handle is 2 3/8 cold roll steel. So each plate will slide down over the handle, get welded around the handle, and then also welded around the perimeter. The bottom 6 plates actually won't have the handle protruding into them. The 2 3/8 hole is going to be a recess to put a camera in the bottom of it. So what I'm doing with those plates is I'm actually, let me find something to use as an example. Dry erase board. How's that for an example? Okay. Limited artistic ability, just so everybody knows. So if you're looking at the top of the pieces of plate, there's a hole here. It's going to be right now it's kind of sitting like that. Each one of these individual plates will be slid down over the cold roll. The cold roll will stick out of the top. However, 6 plates from the bottom, I have, let's see, I have a piece of plate already welded to the cold roll like that. So 6 plates on the bottom will just be stacked up down here. I got a little miter on them. And in the bottom of that is where the camera is going to go. John Warren says, oh boy, here we go, kindergarten drawing again. Perfect. So the camera, there'll be a camera actually in the bottom of it. But what I'm doing on these bottom 6 plates, since they're not going to be tied together with anything but the weld around the perimeter, is the first 2, I cut an oval like this. And I welded one plate to the other inside here and then around the perimeter. And then the next 2, or the next one I put on top, I cut an oval here and here and welded it to the top of the second plate. And then the third plate, ovals back over here again. So I'm welding inside the hammer to prevent it from basically unstacking itself if one of the welds around the perimeter breaks. So hope that answers your question, Nerm. But yeah, there's kindergarten art class again. And there'll be some video. I'll show you guys. Nerm. Okay, carry on. I approve. That was one of the things I was concerned about. I was thinking about with the plates that are going to be slipped down over the handle. I don't have to worry about them really coming apart unless they shear that cold roll off, which is, I guess, entirely possible. But the 6 plates on the bottom weren't going to be held together with anything other than the weld around the perimeter, and I was pretty concerned about that. So that was what I came up with, was cutting the ovals on each plate as I stack them and then welding inside the oval to the plate below it. And that way there's actually some plug, basically kind of like plug welding inside, but on a larger scale. And I'm stick welding it all. So the only, John 69, too bad you live so far away, or I'll come burn some rod with you. Oh, there's Amax. She's the one that came over with her son Zane, and he has the channel Kids Down in the Corner. But he came over and never welded before, never done any metal fabricating. He's 16 years old and was partaking in some of that, and also doing some recording for me. But let's see. What was I going to say? Completely forgot what I was going to say. Sidetracked. Oh, well. Oh, burning some rods. The only thing I'm using wire on is tacking stuff together for fit up before I stick weld it. Mark Mortensen, how are you doing, Mark Mortensen? Oh, AMAX E17, sorry. But with stick welding, you at least have to have enough heat to melt the rod, so that typically ensures that you get pretty good penetration. That's why I'm stick welding everything. I'm doing a root pass with 6010, which sucks. 6010 is terrible to run. I'm not a professional welder by any means. And I've heard of guys that even burn rod every day have trouble with 6010. 6010, I hate it, but it penetrates good. So I run a root pass with 6010, and then I'm going over it with 3 passes of 7018. So let's see, Tyson Dykes. So let's say I was considering a YouTube channel, what equipment would one need to obtain or to be able to hypothetically do this? Actually, I mean, you could do it with a phone, but a phone, and I mean, you can even edit on your phone. There's editing software for your phones. I can tell you what I've got, what I use for my channel. I use a GoPro Hero 5 and a GoPro Hero 5 Session. That's the 2 cameras I record with. I've got a computer that is pretty stout. It's actually a gaming computer. It's set up to where you can run gaming on it because editing is very taxing on a computer, more so than most anything else you could do with a computer. But really, to get started in it, you can do it all with a phone. And yeah, Soldier Dirt 81 says, Tyson, good action camera for video camera and a computer with good memory and storage. I do have a 4 terabyte external hard drive. Once I get done with my videos, I didn't do it in the beginning, and I wish I would have. But once I get done with my videos, the file that I upload to YouTube, I transfer that file to the 4 terabyte hard drive. And that way, at some point, I can go back and make a compilation video. Nerm asks, how much V-groove am I cutting for the plate seams? I'm grooving them at 45-degree angle. It's 1/2-inch plate. And basically, my bevels are like so, just ever so slight of a gap or flat at the edge of the bevel, and then beveled at a 45. But I will tell you, Tyson, I invest a lot of time in YouTube. It's typically 20 plus hours a week, maybe 30 hours a week, between recording, editing, watching other content, commenting, trying to respond to the comments on mine, uploading. I mean, it's 20 to 30 hours a week. But I'm also probably taking an approach that some YouTubers don't. I'm almost making it a full-time job. And there's a lot of people that don't do that. They upload once a week or once a month and just let it go. But I think part of the reason why my channel has grown, I don't know, I'm almost at 5,000 subscribers. And my 1-year anniversary actually on my channel is, believe it or not, today. I didn't even realize that until I looked at my phone. So today is the 1-year anniversary. I've been doing exactly 1 year. Jason Helsley said that I get the email. Let me check and see if I got the email. I most certainly did, sir. I will check it out in a little bit. John Warren says 6010 is very hard to get burning and keep it burning. It burns fast, and you gotta maintain a really tight arc with it. I mean, you got to have that rod almost stuck in, and when it's that close to the puddle, it likes to stick. James Bergeron says, a person like 60-10 took welding in school. I can run very good bead with 60-10. I've never had trouble to start and keeps them burning. Oh. Tyson says that's his main concern. May dip his toe in the pool and see what happens. Just don't want to get sucked into the vortex. And I don't know. I really got sucked into it because I wanted to see it succeed. It's like anything you do. If you go at it, my thought on it is if you go at it kind of half-heartedly, then your chances for success are a lot less than if you just really invest yourself in it and get it done. Daniel Easter, congratulations. Scruffy 61, congrats. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the congratulations, guys. Yeah, G4 1 year, 5,000 subs. Congrats, man. That's quite an accomplishment. I don't know what I'm at for subs right now. I can tell you in a minute. I had 47.77 earlier. Now I got 47.76, so I lost one. But it's okay. Soldier Dirt said his will start January 2012. James Bergeron says October 22nd will make 10 years he's been on YouTube. And other than jumping on YouTube every now and then to watch a video, I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I hadn't subscribed to anybody. I had never uploaded anything. I'd never edited a video. And then Randy with G4 kept telling me, he's like, dude, you got to do it. And so finally I did, and here I am. Soldier Dirt says 7 years, but it's been a long, hard road, but now I'm where I'm happy with an employer. That's good. Being happy with your employer makes a difference in your mindset every day when you go to work. Tyson says he's trying to see where Instagram goes first. Really enjoying what I do there. I think videos may prove to be too taxing. I'm going to experiment soon and see. Instagram is going to be the deciding factor. Jason Heltzley, I can answer that for you. It is Sunny Super Sticky. That's the secret catfish bait that Randy uses. It's like crack for catfish. They can't leave it alone. John 69 says that's how he learned 60-10. He can run a pretty good arc with it. I'm not overly good with 60-10, but I can get a bead in there and I can make it dig. And that's really the goal of the root pass, is just to make it dig and get it in there. G4 is on Tyson now. So Tyson, now you can see what I was dealing with. So just start, Tyson. It won't go anywhere if you don't start. Soldier Dirt had to take a break from Instagram, but I'll be back at some point. Jason, you can order it online, or I think you can order it on eBay, and I think you can get it on their website now. If any bait shops in your area aren't catching or aren't carrying it, they should. It's unreal. To give you an idea on that, Randy and I were fishing together. I don't remember. I think I was just fishing with night crawlers. I mean, catfish eat night crawlers. I've always known that since I was a kid. That's all we fished with for catfish was night crawlers. Randy threw Sunny Super Sticky in within 2 or 3 feet of me. Within 45 seconds of his Sunny Super Sticky hitting the bottom, he had a fish on. John Warren says Tyson just tried to look you up on Instagram. No luck. Tyson's Instagram is pulling levers, something. I don't remember exactly. Maybe that's it, just pulling levers. I will find out. Where's that at? I know he just posted some stuff not long ago. There you go. Pulling space levers. Thanks for that, Tyson. They just start shipping from new manufacturing plants, so it'll be coming out on shelves shortly. W Pro 3, I just joined a fishing channel. This channel, you never know what you're going to see. We might talk about fishing. We might talk about guns. We might talk about trucks. It's hard telling. I will follow the path that you guys lead me to, as long as it's not political, religious. What's all the other hot button topics that you're not supposed to talk about with families at family gatherings, that kind of stuff. W Pro 3. There are some guys that do some ice fishing around here. I've never done it, and I would like to try it. Soldier Dirt Con Expo is always a great topic. I know, and I can't find a hotel room out in Vegas for that weekend. Just like you said, I mean, they're gone. That Con Expo week is going to be crazy. David Rigoni asks, is the logo behind me a crawler crane? Hard to tell. Actually, the logo was designed by my sister-in-law, but it is, I mean, it's a cartoonish kind of deal. It is like a hydraulic crawler crane. Soldier Dirt says Con Expo will be releasing blocks in July. Blocks like hotel room, like places you can stay in July. Brian Gardner, how are you doing? Says maybe look for rooms in Henderson, Nevada. I didn't think of that. That's not too far away. Oh, Soldier Dirt, yes. So Con Expo probably went in, booked all the hotels, and now is going to turn around and rent out blocks of room at a higher rate through Con Expo, I'm guessing. So they're going to corner the market on the hotel rooms. W Pro 3 says hasn't attended Con Expo yet, going to Mine Expo next year. That would be pretty neat. Tyson Dykes Con Expo, the Holy Land for all things that break stuff. I want to go, but no, my wallet can't afford the things I will do to it. Oh, Soldier, that's a good point too, or discounted rate depending on how you shop. David, you're going to bring the hammer to Con Expo. I don't know that the airline would appreciate me loading the old hammer into carry on. But I suppose I could ship it and then collaborate with Tadano while I'm out there to have them hang it and drop it. Maybe we could hang it and drop it on a Liebherr or a Grove. That'd be funny. Yeah, I'm bound and determined to go to Con Expo. That'll be a good time. And I've actually had kind of an informal invite from some of the Tadano reps that when I get out there to hang out with them. Barry Hansen stops the motel. Oh, that makes sense. Stops the motels from ripping people off. And how are you doing, Barry? It's the first I've seen you in here today. Wayne Tharp, how are you doing? The hammer would be a great demo. It would. Yeah, Tyson Dykes, epic idea. I'm sure UPS would love the charge rate to ship that. Soldier of Dirt says he already has a room with another YouTube friend. W Pro 3 asks, dropping the hammer, are you worried about shock load to the boom? No, because it's only a 1,500-pound hammer. And, you know, if I have a 1,000-pound block, or even if I rigged the crane with a 2,000-pound block, the boom's going to be pretty preloaded anyway with the block. So I don't foresee the boom moving a whole lot. And if any of you guys watched Mythbusters, which I think I watched every episode from day one, they dropped a lot of cars and stuff from cranes, and they didn't really get a whole lot of movement out of the boom. I mean, there was some, and dropping a car, you're talking twice the weight of what I'm going to be dropping with that hammer. Oh, Barry Hansen, 7 a.m. Monday morning there in New Zealand. G4 Outdoors is out. Says, have a good day at Jason Helsley there. Facebook only. Well, have a good day, Randy. Thanks for popping in, buddy. Yeah, at some point, we may drop the old hammer from the Tadano. We'll see how it goes. J80, how are you doing? And he actually reached out to me and made an incredible offer, and I wish I was closer. But he told me, he said, if you bring me all the steel for the hammer, he said, I'll provide all the filler material and help you weld it up. And I appreciate that offer. I mean, that was an incredible offer. But Ohio was a long, long drive for me. W Pro 3, I actually saw that. The Mythbusters, now that's got kids on it, when they dropped the car, the block crashed into the boom bad. Was shocked they showed a replay of it. I was too. And it didn't actually hit the boom until they had the car hanging with the totes of water or something underneath. Or they had a tote of water up top in the car hanging. So they must have had 4,000 pounds hanging there, or 5, and cut it all loose. And that's when that block smacked the boom. Soldier Dirt says he's looking forward to seeing others of YouTube at Con Expo. Me too. I mean, that's going to be a great experience. I've never been to Con Expo, and I've heard it is fantastic. Yamaha is sitting in his Grove 9000 right now, making that Sunday money, it looks like. Well, don't let me distract you. But being a crane operator, you probably have a little bit of time to burn sitting there on your phone. Got all 142 poked out. Where are you working at? Yamaha, but that's a name I haven't seen yet on the channel either. So welcome to the channel. Soldier Dirt, you will not be able to see every exhibit in one trip, even if you went every day at all hours. Huh. Is it Soldier Dirt is Con Expo? I mean, I'm assuming it's camera friendly. Surely they'll let anybody just walk around with their cameras. J80 Con Expo is in Las Vegas. Yamaha, it's in between lifts at a paper mill shut down working on their powerhouse. Yeah, Soldier Dirt, I actually read on the Con Expo website, it's like 2.5 million square feet. Or at least it's going to be in 2020. It says, yes, very camera friendly. Well, that's good. And since that's 2020, I may actually try to acquire a new camera before I go out there for that. One that would be a little more friendly to carrying around and recording on the fly. Because a GoPro is not one of those things that works well where you're carrying it by hand. Although the new Hero 7, the image stabilization in that thing is spectacular, so that might do okay. If any of you guys watch Brandon with Elite Earthworks, he was actually recording some video with his Hero 7 where he was walking with it, and I asked him if he had it on a gimbal because it was that steady. Oh, yeah, Mojave says no double time here. The crane company I work for doesn't pay all that great. It's Sunday, so new pay week, which means no overtime pay till after 40 hours. That sucks. Soldier of Dirt, I do not have a selfie stick, but I could have by 2020. I mean, that's a year away, a little over a year away. What is that? Chandrasad, how are you doing? Says, what other cranes have you operated before the Tadano? Oh, Grove, Liebherr, played a little bit in some Manitowoc, Link Belt, Sani, Manitex, just about every major manufacturer. W Pro 3, that isn't right. Can't believe they're doing that. I agree. Yamaha, but his Tadano is one giant selfie stick. I've put the camera on the tip of the boom a few times. I'll start doing that some more when it gets a little warmer. It's not very effective to do it when it's cold out. The batteries don't last very long. Nerm says, what have I come up with for load releasing hook? So I designed one that actually has a couple jaws that come together like this at the bottom, and then has a sear that comes down the middle with a lever attached to it and pivot points. And so what it is the sear in the middle will hold the jaws together at the bottom. Once you pull the lever, it'll pull the sear up and allow the jaws to do this and open straight up at the bottom. And Tyson Dyke says, well, I better get off here and accomplish something for the day. Jimmy, catch up with you later, brother. Have a good day, Tyson. Thanks for stopping in. Good luck with the other rigs, and keep the dirty side down. But Nerm, that's what I've come up with for load releasing. It's one that I can integrate a safety into. And I needed something, or I felt that I needed something that just dropped straight out the bottom. I've actually looked at some load releasing hooks online, and the way they come together is there's a block and it's got a catch that comes across, and then it comes open like this. And I was afraid that just the act of that release coming across like this could be enough to skew the hammer one way or the other. So I wanted something that just opened straight up at the bottom. So I'm going to build my own. And that will start happening as soon as the hammer's done. I think I can whip up that load release in probably a day. And then I'll have to load test it. So I'll probably take it to work, hook it onto something that weighs about 5,000 pounds, pull on it, make sure it doesn't come apart. And then at that point, I know I'll be good for my 1,500-pound hammer. Initially, it'll be pull rope, but I'm going to build it in such a way that I could probably do it or set it up remotely with like a high torque servo. However, I got to be careful with doing that, because if I get, like, say I've got it set up on a radio remote, if I don't use a system that can't be interfered, we could end up with a premature drop when someone turns their TV on or flies their RC plane in the area, which would be bad. Krista Bow, how are you doing? JD, load releasing hooks are expensive, and I think you can build a better one yourself. Absolutely. That's what I'm working on. Yamaha says he's hoping to step out of this Grove of 110-ton into a Liebherr 190 this year. The bigger the crane, the more work they are, my friend. Amanda, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, so we're just going to call you Amanda. Hello, how are you? I'm sometimes terrible at pronouncing names, so if I think I'm going to butcher it, I tend to leave it alone. That's going back to your statement there, Yamaha, about jumping out of a 110 into a 190. I get people that ask me, they're like, well, you know, how do you like running the bigger cranes? I make virtually the same money running a Broderson. I mean, it's a little less money, but it's a whole lot less responsibility in a Broderson than in, 100 or in a 200-ton crane with 330 feet of tip height. Amanda says, husband is looking to change his career choice and has been watching your videos. Well, that's awesome. Mike Rudy, perfect job boom truck. As long as it's got a cab. The stand-up cranes I am not a fan of. Amanda asks, how can you give any advice to get into something like cranes? The best advice I can give is either, I'm not sure where you're located, and that will make a big difference. But if you have a equipment union nearby, you could get into their apprenticeship program, or try to get hired at a company that does crane rental, or even equipment rental. There's a lot of equipment rental companies out there that have some cranes in their fleets. Buffalo, New York area. I would say Buffalo, New York, his best bet would, and I don't know how old he is. Give me some more details. I'll give you a pointed answer to your question. If you can give me some details. You've already told me where you, like the area you're in. How old is he? What experience does he currently have, if any? And then I will give you a tailored response. 39 years old. Okay, so he's just a few years younger than I am. Trondersod asks, what does a crane operator make in the U.S.? Do you have overtime paid? Norway, we have 50% from 3 to 900% from 9 to 7 would be fun to know. It really depends on how much a person wants to work. I know crane operators that make, a couple $100,000 a year, but they are never home and they are always stuck in a tower crane. The average salary, I would say, in my area is going to be 60 to 150,000 a year as a crane operator. We do get overtime. The way I'm in the operators union, so the way our overtime is structured is anything over 8 in a day is overtime. If we work through lunch, that's overtime. Anything after 40 hours is obviously overtime. Saturdays are time and a half, Sundays double time, and holidays are double time. Yamaha, but favorite crane I've ever operated. Actually, and I don't want people to think I'm just promoting Tadano because I use theirs in most of my videos, but that 180G is my favorite crane that I've been in. It is, it's got a lot of creature features in it, so it's comfortable. It is fairly easy to set up. It's maneuverable, and the controls are spectacular. Okay, so before I get way deep in some of these other questions, I'm going to go back to Amanda's. So they're in the Buffalo area. He's 39 years old. Timothy Barney posted a link to the IUOE 158 training website, so that would be a good place to start. If he's got any previous equipment experience, Amanda, that will help immensely. The other option is like United Rentals, places like that. They have cranes in their fleet, so that's a good place to pick up some experience. Or just if you can get hired on with a company that specializes in crane rental, maybe go in as an oiler, or even as a shop guy that's just helping around the shop, and start getting experience around cranes. Cranes isn't a crane, or let me get backed up here. I'm getting all tongue-tied. A career in cranes is not something that happens in one day. I mean, it says he's been a mechanic since he was 15, went into truck driving once the company shut down when he was 22, and went into truck driving. We have a family. He would be a shoe-in for a crane rental company. And if if he went in truck driving, he's obviously got a CDL. He's got mechanical ability. I would imagine your local IUOE would probably pick him up pretty readily. So I would say he's got the potential there to have a future in it. W Pro 3 union has its benefits, but it's not perfect. And that there is some truth to that for sure. And, you know, I'm a union crane operator. I'm not going to go one way or the other with that. I'll tell you that unions have their place and non-union also have their place. I'm a free thinking individual. So I'm not one of those people that does what everybody tells me to do. And I also understand how society has to work. There's got to be people at every level of society and every aspect of society. What has given a lot of unions bad publicity is some of the stuff that you see where unions protect employees that are sleeping on jobs and stuff like that, or protect bad employees, and that's bad publicity. But I can also tell you that unions have done a great deal to making our workplaces much safer, protecting lives, and making sure people are not ran over. So I don't want to, I mean, that heads in the direction of a lot of politics, and I don't want to make this channel about politics. I want this channel to be all encompassing. Everybody's welcome, and have good constructive conversation about stuff. So I probably won't delve any deeper than that into it. Turner Sod says we have a Tadano 160G and a Tadano 220. Every coworker say it's the best cranes to operate, except the one guy driving the Liebherr LTM 1250. Yeah, and I've operated Liebherr and I've operated all of them really, and I am very fond of the Tadanos. And the 160G-5 is basically a twin to the 180G-5. Tyson Dykes, who was on here earlier, had to jump off of YouTube. He spent some time in a 160, and we were comparing load charts, and the 180 will outpick it at some aspects. But other than that, they're pretty much the same crane. Soldier Dirt says he's heard both sides of the coin for unions. Agreed, they do have their place. Amanda says, thanks, I'll pass it on to him. He was looking at United Rental and some other small companies doing rentals. I'm guessing he's been thinking the same thing you advise. And United Rental out there, if he's got a CDL and he's a mechanic, United Rental would probably snag him pretty quick. If I can help in any way, reach out to me. I'll do my best. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I will do my best to help anybody that's willing to help themselves. J80 says, man who's been a mechanic is preferred by some companies as operators because they understand how machines work and are less destructive to equipment. That is a fact. And being as though I'm the one that has to work on the Tadano, I do my best not to tear it up. Timothy Barney says in telecoms, never worked union. He served both sides from several other industries, railroad, etc. J80 says he's worked union, non-union, so he's seen the good and bad in both. And I have as well. I've been in the same boat. Yamaha, but the company you work for won't even pay you to travel from location. Like if you're driving the crane, they aren't paying you to drive the crane from one location to the next. So you're not getting paid until the crane is set up. Tommy Vinson says, hey, Jimmy, the man with the crane. How are you doing, Tommy? James Bergeron says he's planning to go to IUOE 406 to get training after he gets his GED and license. And that you have to have that first. But once you get that, you should be in good shape, James. Yeah, Soldier Dirt's always It always is to your benefit in all trades to perform a proper walk around of your machine, tools, vehicles, etc. That's a fact. And Soldier Dirt, here's a little trick I'll tell you. If you want to know if a guy's inspecting his machine, take the key and hang it on the oil dipstick, the engine oil dipstick. And then when he comes up and asks you where the key is, you can ask him if he checked the oil and did his walk around. And if he says yes, you know he's lying because his key is sitting on would be hanging on the dipstick. Yamaha, but won't pay us for driving our personal vehicles. Traveling this middle an hour each way, and they'll get paid for that. Oh, even some union companies don't do that. It just depends on how their contract's written. J80 brings up another valid point. Companies who require versatility generally think it's easier to train a mechanic to operate than operator to mechanic, and that's a fact. Brian Garden here, that is sneaky, Jimmy. It works. If you take the ignition key and you hang it on the dipstick, you'll know real quickly who's inspecting their machines and who aren't. Soldier Dirt says, very good idea, but most of them have their own keys. I have my own, but it's in my daily routine video. I do it religiously and daily. J80, that is also correct. It says union contracts don't always have to follow state labor laws. I've been in situations where I had to drive an hour to get to a job where we've left the crane, for a couple week job or whatever, and I wasn't getting paid for that hour travel time. But the company I was working for provided a truck and fuel. So it was kind of a balance. I wasn't having to drive my own vehicle, wouldn't have to burn my own fuel. So that was kind of our trade-off. And David Regoni says, check the oil, etc. on semi-daily. That's a fact. Amanda says her husband did that when they got married in 2008. The next Monday, the driver that was taking over his runs for 2 weeks called and couldn't find the key. He hung it just as you said on the dipstick. Yamaha says we have to keep track of your mileage. I mean, I don't know what it's going to do as far as tax purposes, but I know if you're having to use your personal vehicle to commute to your job, then I think there's some tax incentive there. But on the Soldier Dirt's topic, if you take care of your equipment, that's the only employees that will never call in sick. I mean, I can't say never. Occasionally equipment breaks down, but it's not going to be late for work. It will always be there ready for you to use it as long as you take care of it. Let's see. Yamaha says, wish they would just get us company trucks. I'd even trade my truck allowance for a company truck. If they're giving you truck allowance, I mean, that's at least something. J80, that is a fact. So do not like having a company truck when he's a field mechanic. Having a company vehicle put me on call 24/7. That was one of the reasons why I left the equipment rental company that I was with for 10 years. I was a field mechanic and I was on call 24/7. But they were letting me drive my service truck home every night and to work every morning. And then some bean counter came up with this awesome plan that no company vehicles were allowed to leave the premises unless it was for business purposes. So they still had me on call 24/7, but I would have had to drive to our facility, get in the truck, and then go do the service call, and then take the truck back to the facility, and then get my personal vehicle and drive a half hour home. And I couldn't start my time, Even if it was an after hours call, I couldn't start my time until I got to my truck. And at that point, I told him no. Soldier says machines are greased by an oil and lube truck, but they know I make sure they do their due diligence and grease my machine daily or every other day. J80 says, Jimmy, sounds like we've been down some of the same roads. That's a fact, my friend. I would say we have traveled similar paths. Yamaha says he drives his own truck, still have to be on call 24/7. I mean, the company I work for now, technically they could call me in for an after hours deal. We don't get a lot of them. We do get them occasionally, but not very often. Soldier Dirt, I'm lucky that the Tadano has auto lubers on it. There's some stuff that's not auto lubricated, like boom sections and whatnot, boom pins. So I still have to grease those, but at least the main, like all the steering components, slewing ring, the boom cylinder pins, all that kind of stuff is greased with auto lubers. Yamaha, but crane you absolutely hate to run. I am not a fan of Sany cranes. I don't know what their excavators are like, but I'm not a fan of their cranes. And I don't really like stand-up boom trucks. Not that they're not a great machine. I mean, they're great machines. But it seems like anytime I get stuck on a stand-up boom truck, I'm either in the rain, in the snow and cold, or I'm stuck standing on it in one spot for 10 hours, and it sucks. JD, and learn to be careful about what people call promotion. A real promotion comes with a raise in pay. Without a raise, it's a demotion. That's a fact. It's just more responsibility. Brian Gardner, and stand-up controls, yes. Soldier Dirt, I guess also I'm spoiled in the fact that being so I've got Mercedes engines in the upper and lower, it tells me what all my fluid levels are. I honestly, I don't even have to pull a dipstick if I don't want to. I do, but I don't have to. Dickard with Dave, how are you doing? Hope things are going well up there in Canada. Yamaha, the sketchiest job I've ever done. Any one of my subscribers that's been around for a while want to answer that for Yamaha? The sketchiest jobs I've ever done, or sketchiest job? J80, overtime opportunities, not a raise in pay. Don't fall for that one. Yeah, that's a fact. There it is. Jason Heltzley says cell towers. Cell towers are the sketchiest. I don't like them. I'll do them, but I don't like them. Anything that deals with stuff that's that high off the ground with people inches away from it, putting their hands on it, there's so many places for something to happen, and you really got to have all your ducks in a row. The biggest concern with cell towers is wind. Yamaha says, yeah, we hate cell towers. It's the one job that makes me not want the 190. So I've got a few cell tower videos on my channel. One of them was topping out that 310-foot tower. That's the one that new subscribers at autoplays for them. The other one is a part 1 and a part 2. And the part 2 is probably the sketchiest I've done on cell towers. Side picking the top piece because we didn't have enough tip height, trying to get it set down on the tower. And if any of you guys haven't watched part 2 of that video, go back and watch that one because that's probably the sketchiest pick I've ever made. I would say probably the sketchiest of any of them. W Pro 3, have I made a video showing my daily inspection? I have not, and the reason why I haven't is because if I'm walking around, I have to hold the camera, and when I do my daily inspection, I have to do a lot of climbing and whatnot. So I actually haven't. I haven't done a walk around video yet. Brian Gardner, that's a true story, says, and to make matters worse, cell towers are typically put on a hill and for coverage, and they are first to get wind. Yamaha, but the sketchiest job he did was 170-foot radius set up on a hill, and you could walk under the front of my crane, had 5 feet of cribbing under the front stabilizer. That would be spooky. Hopefully your cribbing was stacked vertically and had it wasn't sitting like this. I've seen a lot of pictures like that, and it would be a no bueno on that. David Rigoni, hat cam for walk around. I could do that. One thing I figured out about putting my camera on my hard hat is when I'm looking at I keep forgetting that my camera is like 6 inches higher than my eyes. So I end up cutting off what I'm trying to show you guys. When I have the camera on my hat. Timothy Barney said the biggest tower we have at work is a 250-foot. Oh, it's a guide tower, 3-foot wide triangular cross section that sits on top of a 1,300-foot mountain. Oh. Well, the biggest tower I've done was a self-supporting 310-footer. And it's on one of my videos. And that is actually, I won't be able to do a tower any bigger. I was running out of headroom. So as far as cell towers go, 310 is my limit on that Tadano. Even though it's got a full 330 foot of tip height, you have to stay away from the tower enough that the boom, like if the tower's sticking up here, the boom clears the tower section. If I tried to get it up any steeper, then the boom would hit the tower section before we got it put in place. J80 says when a tire blows out on a combine, they're always on the hill and the tank is always full. I've seen combines go over because of blown tires. But I'll try to do a walk around video for you guys, see what I can come up with. Also, while I've got the crane in the shop this week, I will see about sliding under it with a creeper and a flashlight and a camera and show you guys more of the suspension and drivetrain. If that's something you guys want to see. And then like the steering components underneath it. Yamaha, but I've actually done that a few times, Yamaha, but as far as getting your counterweights to spin and setting them on the deck without anybody touching them. I've set the crane up in our yard to do stuff and didn't have anybody around and had to set my own counterweights on the deck. And it's not one of those things you would want to do all the time, but if you take your time and are careful, then you can actually make it happen. The trouble is when you're setting the counterweights on the deck, one corner of the counterweight is only about 14 inches from the windshield of the cab. Yamaha, but it's one of those that takes seat time. Nerm, when I played TV, we had 2,000 foot, stacked the tapered section up 100 foot, up to 180 foot crane, and gin pool the last. Have 560 at the house. Guy wire supported. That's crazy. Yeah, no thanks. 2,000 feet up on a tower? No way. You wouldn't get this fat kid up there, I promise. Soldier Dirt's always neat seeing those cranes cruise down the highway with their trucks behind it. Sounds like J80 does a lot of work on farm equipment. I don't know what all you work on, J80, but I can tell you a little secret that I did, probably back in 2000, 2001. I had to pull a transmission out of a backhoe out in the dirt and couldn't get a transmission jack or anything to roll underneath it. So I used a farm tractor tire inner tube and a sheet of plywood, actually 2 sheets of plywood. J.D. says, weld pipe with gas flowing through it in a ditch all day long before I go up 3 steps on a ladder. No, yeah, I'm not welding on pipe with gas flowing through it either. But anyway, pulling the transmission out of the backhoe, I laid down a sheet of plywood, put the inner tube in there, put a piece of plywood on top of it, aired the inner tube up to lift up the transmission. As I took all the bolts out, slid the transmission back just a little bit on the plywood, and then let the air out of the inner tube to lower it down to the ground. And that's probably not a recommended procedure, but it worked. So on my service truck, I always kept a tractor inner tube for, I mean, if no other reason, you can put a little bit of air in it and lay on it sometimes if you're out in the gravel and doing whatever. And it makes a fairly comfortable spot to lay down on the ground. Or if the ground's wet, you can air it up a little bit, lay on it, and not get soaking wet. But welding pipe with gas flowing through it, I've heard of that, and there is no way I would weld on a gas line with gas running through it. Well, one, because I'm not a welder, I'm a crane operator, so I'm probably not going to get down the ditch anyway. But the other, I would blow up half the county. JD says that was a great MacGyver move, Jimmy. That's the common sense missing in many people. Here's my theory on common sense. We should now change it to uncommon sense because less people have it than do have it. So it's actually uncommon. Soldier Dirt says, yeah, that is a big no, thank you. There's just something about weld on a gas line that doesn't seem like it's very safe. But yeah, I am a proponent of changing the term from common sense to uncommon sense. And, you know, if a person can read and they have some common sense, they should be able to accomplish anything they set their mind to. I mean, that's one thing I drilled into my kids when they were little is if you can read, you can teach yourself to do anything because the material's out there. It's just a matter of finding it, studying it, and learning. Ryan Gardner or a gas tank. I've actually welded on some gas tanks. Completely full of gas. I mean, you want to make sure they are topped off completely full. And even then, I don't recommend it, but I've done it. J80 says gas is only dangerous if it's leaking and you don't know. As long as you keep it burning, it don't blow up. So you're sitting there welding a gas line with a big fire in your face while you're welding it? And who starts the fire? Who's the guy that says, "Hey, that's leaking. We need to make a flame there." I want to know who gets that job. I mean, if it were me, I would probably be shooting bottle rockets at it from about 150 feet away or more. Soldier Dirt says, does anyone else in here subscribe to Jason Nichols' channel? He does some incredible drone videos. He does, and I am subscribed to him. He also, I think, is, correct me if I'm wrong, Soldier Dirt. on Instagram, isn't he Heavy Lift Productions? I think that's his Instagram. We'll wait for Soldier to catch up with me on that. But that's what I thought. I sent him some pictures on Instagram. He was asking for people to send him pictures, and he never used them. I don't know if he thought I was spamming him or what. But he does have some spectacular drone footage. And I think I commented on one of your pictures on Instagram, and he asked where I was at because I had made a comment about needing to get a drone. And I think since he's in Texas and I'm in Missouri, that logistically isn't going to work out. I think he was contemplating coming up and recording for me. J80 says use side plates around the control where the flame comes out. It's like any dangerous job. You need the right training from the right people. You light the line the minute you open it. Huh. Yeah, that just has nope written all over it. J80. There's nope. Not going to do it. I'm not going to take my little welder out there and start welding on the old gas meter. Unless I could weld the needles in one spot. I mean, I'd give that a whirl to cut down my gas bill. Oh, it was on his channel. Yeah. If he ever makes it up this way, I would, Soldier Dirt, I would pay him for some good drone footage because his drone footage is great. Like Lakeside Ranch, they get some good drone footage. It seems like everybody I know or everybody on here that's got a drone that would be willing to come film for me isn't in the area. And I mean, I know anybody can fly a drone around, but there are people that are inherently good at getting good footage. Blue Line Landworks is another one that gets some incredible drone footage. Oh, Soldier of Dirt said he'll be at Con Expo. I've got to get out to Con Expo, even if I got to take a tent. J80 said nothing really that much more dangerous than inflating tires with ether, and we've all done that. Guilty. Jim Worst says, do you take cranes out to get yearly ocean inspection, or am I certified to do that? We actually have an outside company come in and do our annual inspections. I don't do that myself. And I am not ever going to get certified to do that. And the reason being is, one, I'm also the operator of that crane. I don't want to be the one doing the annual inspection on it. I see it every day. I want someone to lay eyes on it that doesn't look at it every day. Because they may see something that I have not seen, because it's kind of like people that have a dirty bedroom. It doesn't bother them because they see it all the time and they're used to it. But when someone walks in, they're like, man, that thing's a mess. So I want someone else to put eyes on the crane. And then the other reason is if for some reason there were something that were missed, I don't want my name attached to the inspection side of it. Yamaha, he says, oh, I hate when the contractor you're working for has a rigger that pulls on the rigging and block. Here's how I solve that problem, Yamaha. I will put the tip of the rigging or the hook about 2 inches out of their reach and guide them around like a little puppy dog if they keep pulling on it. So that's how I solve that problem. I will let someone pull on the block once, and I'll say, hey, don't do that. I'm using that to get lined up for my next piece or whatever I got to get hooked up to. You pulling on it, I can't ensure that my boom tips over what I'm going to be picking up. Therefore, I can't guarantee the piece is going to come up straight. So that's the conversation I have with them, and I do it very politely, and we try to get all on the same page. Then if they pull on it again, the next time I'm going over with the rigging, I will keep it. I've actually had a guy on his tiptoes following that rigging like this, stretched out as far as he could reach on his tiptoes, and I led him for about 45 feet to the piece that I was going to pick up. And the whole time he was trying to grab it, and I never let him get a hold of it. And then once I get centered up over my piece, I'll lower it down and let him hook up to it. They typically get mad when I do that, but, you know, I've got to be able to put the rigging where it needs to be to make the pick. So Timothy Barney says, yep, you look at something day in, day out, and you may overlook something a fresh set of eyes catches. That's a fact. J. Chris Beck, how are you doing? So just got home from work, and here you all are. Here we are for about another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to go start burning some more rods in the old garage on the old hammer. Cut some more plates with the old plasma and start welding stuff together. Yamaha says, most I've ever had to do was knock a guy's paperwork and tools off my back outrigger with my rigging because he kept putting it on top of my outrigger beam when I told him not to. That's no good. Outrigger beams aren't workbenches. Soldier Dirt. Well, Jim, I'm going to check out, get some chores done. Well, thanks for stopping in, Soldier Dirt. Albert, have a good day. We'll catch you on the next one. I will keep you. I don't know that I've got your contact info. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll get you my contact info, and we'll work through this Con Expo thing. Yamaha, but he was pissed I could do it without physically touching it with my hands. Yeah, I don't let people put stuff on my outriggers. I don't let people weld. Use my outriggers as workbench and weld. I don't let people weld if I've got stuff hanging on my hook with steel rigging. It just doesn't happen. J. Chris Beck, that's a fact, making the hammer. J.D. says, with Jib Crane, I've refused to work with a person after a couple of days. They would not center the rigging over the load. He weighs 275, and they took me out of his shoes several times. I try to help people. SoldierDirt81@gmail.com. Got it. JD, but I will not let someone hurt me that won't learn. That's a fact. Amanda asks, any way to get a private message from me so her husband can contact me? Let's see here. Jake respects says, I like when peeps make stuff. That's what I like to do. Yeah, I've got a lot of making to do on that hammer, Chris. It's going to be there's a lot of welding. And J80, I've actually picked a guy up off the ground one time by accident. He had gloves on that a lot of ironworkers like to wear with the real long cuffs on them, like gauntlet gloves. And he gave me the cable up real fast signal and had his hand right next to the hook. And I was just running a little Broderson IC200, so it was a little small carry deck crane. We were inside a building. And so I stood on the go pedal and gave her some winch up, and that hook snagged the cuff of his glove, and I picked him up about a foot off the floor before I got him stopped and set back down. But it picked him up by his glove, snagged his glove. And that was in my early days of crane operating. I mean, I guess it was kind of my fault, and it was kind of his fault, both at the same time. Brian Gardenier says, are there foundries that can cast something like that? There is. I don't know what it would cost, but there are foundries that can do that. I was gonna get it with one. I was gonna do it with 1-inch plate, but I figured I'd have trouble with cracked welds trying to weld that 1-inch plate without preheating it and controlling the cool down. J80, I haven't been able to get a hold of any 7024. I'm route passing with 6010 and capping with 7018. So it's going to take me a little while. J. Chris Beck, sure there are. Brian, guess Jimmy likes welding. Well, and there's a foundry not real far from where I'm at. Didn't even think about contacting them, but I don't know what it would cost for them to set up a mold and pour me off 1,500 pounds of cast steel. Cast iron, I think, would be too brittle, but cast steel would probably hold up. Brian Gardenier says, I was wondering where demo companies get their wrecking balls. I'm not sure, but we actually have one at our shop from back in the old days. We won't use it on any of our hydros, but we still own it. Nerm said he sent me an email with the gin pull going up. Let's look at that email. See if I can share the picture with everybody. Yeah, that's got no written all over it. Let's see if we can get this picture to show up. Oh, come on, phone. All right, it's horizontal, but it's a tower that Nerm was talking about with the gin pole going up. It's like a 2,000-foot tall tower. JD says, you got a lot of rod to burn. What diameter rod are you using? Well, I'm kind of limited by the scope of what my machine will do, so I'm burning 1/8-inch rod. So, yeah, there's that. I know I should be trying to run 3/16. I don't think my machine will handle it. Brian Gardenier, I do have MIG, but I'm using stick on everything. I've got a roll of flux core in it, and I have also, JD, I haven't been able to find the Lincoln Intershield 212 you were talking about. Right now, I've got a roll of 035 211 in it that I'm using for tacking everything during fit up, and then I switch over to stick to do my actual 100% welding. Brian Gardenier, I didn't want to use MIG because I'd be going through gas like a madman with all that welding. So there's that. I've figured out there's no real trade-off one way or the other. If I went MIG welding, it would be probably faster. I may not get as good a penetration, but I'd be going through gas like crazy. Using stick, I get good penetration, but it's slower. Yeah. So there it is. J80 7018 is a great welding rod for flat and horizontal fillet. 7028 does a great job, and it minimizes restarts because one rod welds more inches. And J80, also another thing that kind of kicked me out of the 7024 mindset is I was watching one of Jody's videos on welding tips and tricks, and he was running 7024 on DC, and it didn't look like it was welding very well. And he switched to AC, and it laid out perfect. But my welder is not AC capable. It's only a DC welder. So I didn't want to go buy 50 pounds of 7024 and then have it look like chicken poop because I couldn't run it appropriately. J80 says stick is the least expensive way to weld if you don't count your time as money. Well, I don't know. I mean, time is always money, I suppose, but I guess on the weekends, it's just my weekend job for a while is welding. I ought to be really good at it by the time I get done putting that hammer together, welding 30 pieces of plate together. And J80, while you're on here, that 6010 sucks. It's hard to run. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm running it too hot or something. I don't know. But initially, when I started out, I had trouble keeping up with the rate of burn on the rod because it was burning off real fast. So I was having trouble keeping my arc tight enough. Brian Gardner says when he was working at a welding supply store, he remembers NR211. That's what I've got in it right now is 035 NR211. John 69, what make, model stick welder you got? Actually, I have got, and nobody throw rocks at me. I've got a Vulcan OmniPro 220. So it's the highest end line that you get at Hard to Fart. And honestly, I'm not a professional welder, but it has done a great job with everything I've asked it to do so far. And I mean, it hasn't kicked out on temperature. I've probably pushed it past its duty cycle a few times. But it's getting it done. J80, you only need around 90 to 110 amps for the 6010. 1/8-inch 6010, 90 to 100. Well, therein lies my problem. So I'm guessing the 130 that I was running through it was probably a little excessive. Yeah, Hobbit got me added on Instagram. That's awesome. Mike Manfred, how are you doing? Tell Charles I say hello. Well, now I figured out why I was having trouble maintaining a tight arc. Because I was feeding that 1/8-inch 6010 130 amps, and I was wondering, I was like, man, why can't I keep up with it? And it didn't look the best, but I had a good bead. Had good bead going in. It was spattering like crazy, and I was welding like a madman. I mean, I bet I was feeding that rod about this fast going into that weld. Am I using the whip and pause technique? Not at 130 amps. I wasn't. I was using the get it stuck to the steel technique. It was the just get in there and burn it. I think I was using half circles. So just welding back over the top, kind of going forward. I guess it was kind of like a whip and pause. So I was kind of going forward in a half circle and coming back over it and back forward and back over it. But yeah, J80, I bet you were feeding real fast. I was feeding real fast. Hence the reason why I probably had so much spatters, because my arc was out of control, because my rod was burning up faster than what it should have been. Man, I love YouTube. You guys are great. We're going to try 90 to 100 amps next time and see what happens. And at 90 to 100 amps, the duty cycle on my welder is pretty high, so I could probably just keep on trucking with it. Now the 7018, the 1/8-inch 7018 run over the top of the 6010. I'm running the 7018 at about 135, and it is welding spectacularly. It's welding so good that the slag is peeling itself up. Barry Hansen, I will do better this afternoon. I'll probably weld like a pro this afternoon after talking to you guys and learning that I was burning that 6010 at about 40 amps too much. Woofy W, how are you doing? Brian Gardner, maybe you could video building the hammer. I've got some footage. A friend of mine came over Friday night with her son, and he's got a channel, Kids Down in the Corner. that friend of mine is the one that gets a lot of the external or exterior crane video and crane shots that you guys see. And she and her son came over. He'd never done any welding, so he got to learn a little bit and watch and record some footage. And I'll probably set a camera up this afternoon and record some footage of doing a little welding. That way you guys can critique me. Woofy W, it's coming along slowly. Like I told everybody in the beginning of this, I grossly underestimated the scale of the project I was doing. J80 erratic arc will cause excessive spatter. When welding DC, get a plate of steel that you can tack on the hammer. Always weld towards your ground, never away from it. And that I've been welding towards my ground, and I've just, fortunately, as far as I've gotten so far, my clamp still fits over the pieces of plate. So I've just been clamping it at the end where I've been welding towards it. But that's all great advice. I appreciate it. And I've got some scrap. That's what I'll do. Now that the stack's getting thick enough that I'm having trouble clamping to it, I'll cut me a little 2-inch square, 1/2-inch plate, tack it to the plate, use that for my ground lug. But yes, Woofy W, it's coming, but slow. Probably won't be dropping it the second week of February like I'd originally hoped. It's probably going to be the first part of March, I'm guessing. You know, when I had this idea, my brother and I were actually just brainstorming, talking on the phone, and came up with the idea for Thor's hammer. And I was like, well, I'll just build a 1,500-pound hammer. Sounds easy enough. I'll just stack a bunch of plates together, weld them up, done dealing. And then I got this stack of plates sitting in here and started welding and cutting and fabricating. I'm like, wait a minute. There's going to be a lot of work involved in this. And when I say a lot, it's a whole bunch. Mike Manfred, things take time if you want it done right. That's a fact. And I'm trying to do it all right. I mean, I'm laying everything out, cutting the plate with cutting the 1/2-inch plate with a plasma, and I know 6010 will about weld through anything. I'm even grinding my cuts to get any of the carbon off, make sure I don't get any inclusions in it, knocking any slag off, wire wheeling the welds when I stop and restart, all that. J80 said if your machine is peeling the slag on 1/8-inch 7018 at 130 amps, your machine runs warm. Try the 6010 at 90. I'll do that. Thanks for the tip on that. So it shouldn't be peeling the slag on the 7018. I thought that was kind of a good sign that you had good bead conformity and not a lot of undercut and all that, is that your slag will peel up on its own. Maybe I was wrong in that. Woofy W, safety first. So what you're saying, Woofy W, when I was working on that while sipping on a little whiskey Friday night, might not have been the best idea. Oh, J80 says slag peel is perfect. Well, I'm glad you guys piped up about the too much amperage on the 6010. I was thinking, man, I'm going to be fighting this throughout this whole project. It's going to suck. Woofy W depends on how much. Define how much. Mike Manfred, I was trying to keep him warm. It's definitely keeping warm. Oh, another thing I figured out too. 6010 smokes a lot. When I first started it on the hammer, and was doing a lot of cutting and grinding. I'm doing all this in an attached garage, so it's attached to my house. Didn't even think about that stuff kind of creeping into the house. My wife had to come out and tell me it was starting to stink in the house, so I had to open one of my windows up, put a fan in the window, and then pop one of my garage doors open about an inch. And also, our range hood for our kitchen is adjacent to our garage, and the range hood above our cooktop vents into the garage. So now I turn the range hood blower on high. That way it pressurizes the garage from inside the house. And then with the fan set up in the window and the door popped open a little bit, I was able to clear the smoke out. But that first night, I think I've got 9.5-foot ceilings in there. And that first night, I could hardly see the ceiling. Brian Gardner, the welds might not have been straight Friday night. No, they were pretty straight. 60-10 is fast, freeze, easier to control out of position. 70-18, what rods you weld best with is likely the rods you have the most practice with. That makes sense. I can run a perfect bead with 70-18. It's nice and pretty and smooth, and not much undercut unless I'm right at the edge of something. So, and that's what I kept the most of on my service truck was 70-18. I kept some hard surfacing rod for cutting edges and buckets and whatnot. Kept some 110,000 psi rod for welding out bolts, broken off bolts and stuff. But my go-to rod was pretty much 70-18. So I have done some welding. I haven't messed with any of the 60 series rods much at all. But I can't sit here and say that I'm a professional welder by any stretch of the imagination. I've got a friend out in Colorado, though, that I've had to call him a few times and pick his brain. He's one of those people that if I had to trust my life to a 1-inch weld, he would be one of those people that would be putting that weld in for me. So he actually has a metal fabricating shop out there in Fort Collins that he's just getting started, but I think it's Arn Metal Works. And he's on Facebook. If any of you guys are in Colorado and he's building one of those bed carrying systems for side-by-sides where it's got ramps that come off the back of the bed. You can run your side-by-side up and the front end of it sits above your cab. So he's doing a lot of those, does some other stuff. But if you're on Facebook and look up Arn Metal Works, that's ARN, you can find him on there. So I'm going to have to tell him he owes me now since I just gave him a plug on YouTube. It says the heat, J80 says the heat just rolls off something as massive as that hammer. Sometimes you can turn the heat down a bit after you get a fire built in the part. That makes sense. Brian Gardner, I have never ran Eutectic brand rod. The stuff I'm running right now is Lincoln. I think, no, I'm running Lincoln Wire Radnor rod because it's Airgas brand off their shelf. I think it's Radnor. I don't know. It's welding good, except for the 60-10, but that's my fault. It's not the rod's fault. Also, you guys are probably going to scold me too because I don't have my 70-18 in a rod oven. David Regoni, you guys have just blown the mind of someone that has never welded. 6011 runs a bit easier than 6010. 6011 doesn't dig as deep, though, does it? And I thought that the 6011 was AC only. I didn't know it was, you could run on AC or DC. Oh, you can run 6011 on DC. Huh. I thought 6010, 6013 was DC. I thought 6011 was only AC rod. Learn something new every day. Actually, I'm learning a lot of new today. JD said not quite as deep as on the 6011, still good root pass rod. Adam Arc brand. I've never heard of that, Brian. Oh, 6013 will run on any polarity. 6013 is like the old farmers go to when they don't have a grinder nearby, isn't it? Like, oh, it's got paint and rust and fuel and hydraulic oil and stuff all over the part, but we're going to weld it anyway. Isn't that kind of what 6013 is for? Brian Gardner says 6010, 6011 is what a lot of pipeliners use. I guess if 6010 will hold a pipeline together, it ought to hold my hammer together. If I'd quit running it so hot. If I'm willing to bet I'll have better luck this afternoon with it. But with that, we've been going for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And as you guys know, I've got a lot of rod to burn. So I'm not burning my candle at both ends, but I'm burning a lot of rods at one end. So David Cunningham, they don't drop the pipeline. That's a fact. Mike Manford, we know what you're doing before the game now. That's also a fact. Brian Gardner says, I bet you're a little excited now to go do it. I'm really curious to see how that rod runs on 90 amps. So yeah, I'm a little excited about it. I'm not excited about all the work that has to be done yet, but I'm excited to see how the 6010 runs. Brian Gardner, the Super Bowl is today. So my live stream is earlier in the day. I was going to do it at 6 o'clock, but yeah. Oh, just kidding. I didn't know where you're at. It could be somewhere that doesn't know about the Super Bowl. But all right. Well, with that, everybody, I got to go get some welding done, some cutting and fabricating and grinding, mess making, all that good stuff. Got some people coming over later to watch the game. So I greatly appreciate everybody's input on helping me with the project. If any of you guys are in the area, feel free to stop by. You can come burn some welding rod. JAD pipeline, static pressure pipeliners can be welding divas sometimes. They get the mindset they're welding gods. Yeah, I can see that. It says we all need to keep learning as welders. Actually, we all need to keep learning as humans. So as soon as we think we know it all, that's when it gets you. So anyway, thanks for all the help. Thanks for the support, keeping me humble, and you guys always keep me humble, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And with that, I'm going to go start burning some rods. To the Top Crane is out.